I trusted my family with my daughter, Nora, my entire world. They betrayed us both in a way I'll never forget. Their choices left scars deeper than I could have imagined, shattering the bond one thought we had forever. This cabin looked like a postcard from paradise, towering pine trees, a quiet lake, a private dock, a cozy A-frame tucked into the Minnesota woods. It promised a perfect weekend escape, a chance for Nora to make memories with her grandparents. But beneath its charm, a nightmare waited, one that would unravel everything we knew. What started as a simple getaway became a heart-wrenching betrayal, a story of pain and neglect that changed our lives forever. You'd never guess the darkness hidden in such a serene place, but it's where our trust was broken. I'm Abigail Thompson, 35, a single mom and high school English teacher in Minneapolis. My daughter, Nora, is 10, with a heart so bright it lights up any room. She's kind, curious, and stronger than anyone I've ever known. Raising her alone hasn't been easy, but she's my entire world. Every choice I make, every sacrifice, is for her. I thought letting her spend time with my family would give her the love and connection I always craved growing up. I never imagined they'd fail her so completely, leaving me to pick up the pieces. What would you do if the people you trusted most, your own family, ignored your child's pain for a dinner party? Picture your daughter, crying, begging for help, her leg broken, and they dismiss it as nothing. That's what happened to Nora. My parents and brother chose appearances over her safety, forcing her to endure unbearable agony no child should face. This isn't just a story of hurt. It's about finding strength to stand up, to protect what matters most. It's about learning who family really is when the ones you're born to let you down. Stick with me for 40 minutes to hear how Nora and I survived this betrayal. It's a story of pain, but also of healing and courage. If it moves you, hit like and subscribe to join our journey. Your support means the world to us. My parents, Clarence and Evelyn Porter, live in a breathtaking lakeside cabin 2 hours from Minneapolis. Picture wooden beams, a private dock stretching into a glassy lake, pine trees whispering in the breeze. It's the kind of place you'd see on a postcard, promising warmth and memories. But growing up there, I felt none of that. My father, Clarence, a retired cardiothoracic surgeon, ruled our home with an iron expectation of perfection. A 92 on a math test wasn't a success. It was a failure, proof I wasn't trying hard enough. He'd sit at the dinner table, his voice sharp, dissecting my every choice. My mother, Evelyn, a former school nurse, was no softer. She criticized everything. My clothes were too casual, my hair too plain, my dreams too small. I became a high school English teacher, pouring my heart into shaping young minds, but to them, it was a betrayal. They wanted me in medicine, following Clarence's footsteps, wearing a white coat like a badge of worth. Every visit to that cabin brought back the weight of their disappointment, the sting of never being enough. I'd walk through those wooden doors, 35 years old, and feel like a child again, shrinking under their gaze, desperate for a scrap of approval that never came. Their love was conditional, tied to a version of me I could never be. It left me hollow, questioning my worth, yet I kept returning, believing Nora deserved to know her grandparents, hoping I could rewrite my past through her joy. My brother, Everett, 28, was the golden child, their pride and joy. He followed Clarence into orthopedic surgery, and to my parents, he could do no wrong. They treated him like he walked on water, his every move celebrated. If Everett forgot a chore, it was laughed off as boys being boys. If I got AB+ in English, I was wasting my potential, my efforts dismissed with a sigh. Growing up, I watched him bask in their praise while I scrambled for crumbs. He'd stride into the cabin, all confidence, and the air would shift. Clarence's stern face would soften. Evelyn's criticism would vanish. Everett could spill coffee on the rug and get a chuckle. I'd be scolded for a wrinkled shirt. I spent my childhood chasing their approval, believing if I worked harder, studied longer, I'd earn the love they gave him so freely. But no matter how high I climbed, it was never enough. Their favoritism carved a quiet wound, one I carried into adulthood, still hoping for the day they'd see me. I told myself it didn't matter anymore, that I'd built a life for Nora and me. But deep down, I knew those old scars shaped every choice I made about family, every step I took toward that cabin. I'll never forget Christmas when I was 16, a memory that sums up everything. I spent hours decorating the cabin, stringing lights, hanging ornaments, pouring my heart into making it magical, hoping for a smile, a nod, anything. Evelyn walked in, surveyed my work, and called it tacky. Her lips pursed in that familiar disapproval. I stood there, crushed, the glow of the lights dimming in my eyes. Everett, who'd barely lifted a finger, wandered in with the Christmas tree he'd picked from the lot. Clarence clapped him on the back, praising his natural eye for beauty. That was our family, my efforts invisible, his flaws ignored. Every holiday, every visit played out the same. I'd try to prove my worth, only to be overshadowed by Everett's effortless shine. Those moments built a quiet resentment, a question I buried deep. Why wasn't I enough? As an adult, I told myself I'd moved on, that I could handle their judgment for Nora's sake. But standing in that cabin, watching her laugh with them, I wondered if I was fooling myself, setting her up for the same pain I'd carried all those years, the same wounds I'd never fully healed. Despite it all, I kept Clarence and Evelyn in our lives for Nora's sake. She adored them in a way I never could. She'd light up fishing with Grandpa Clarence, casting her line into the lake, giggling at his gruff jokes. Baking cookies with Grandma Evelyn, her hands dusted with flour, she'd beam with pride at their creations. Everett's hospital stories, exaggerated tales of saving lives, had her wide-eyed, hanging on every word. I wanted her to have those moments, the kind of family connection I'd longed for growing up. I thought I could protect her from their judgment, the way it had crushed me for decades. I'd stand by her side, deflecting Evelyn's sharp comments about her messy ponytail or Clarence's insistence that she'd be a doctor someday. I believed I was stronger now, that I could manage their toxicity for her sake, keep their love for her pure, untainted by the criticism that defined my childhood. I told myself I could shield her, that I could rewrite my story through her joy. But I was wrong. Horribly, heartbreakingly wrong. Their failure wasn't just to me anymore. It was to Nora, the one person I'd sworn to protect above all else. And that failure would shatter everything I thought I knew about family. In April 2024, I got a rare opportunity to represent my school at a teaching conference in Chicago, a chance to showcase my work and take a real step toward becoming department head. It was the kind of moment I'd worked years for, but it came with a cost, leaving Nora with my parents for 3 days. My stomach churned as I packed her bag, folding an extra sweater, tucking in her allergy meds, slipping her favorite book into the side pocket. Nora, 10 years old, with her sparkling hazel eyes and bouncy ponytail, was buzzing with excitement. Grandpa said we're hiking to the waterfall, she chirped, her voice full of joy. I smiled, but my heart felt heavy. I knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Take your meds every morning, okay? And call me if you feel homesick, no matter what time. She nodded, her grin unwavering, so trusting, so unaware of the knot tightening in my chest. I wanted to believe she'd be safe, that Clarence and Evelyn would care for her the way I did. But doubt lingered, a quiet whisper I couldn't shake. I'd grown up under their judgment, their cold expectations. Could I really trust them with my daughter, my entire world? I pushed the thought down, telling myself it was just 3 days. Nora deserved this adventure, a chance to make memories with her grandparents. But as I zipped up her bag, that unease clung to me, a shadow I couldn't outrun. Before leaving, I pulled Evelyn aside in the cabin's kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee lingering in the air. "Nora's been having knee pain from soccer," I said, keeping my voice steady. "There's ibuprofen in her toiletry bag, and please, let her call me if she needs me, even late." Evelyn's eyes narrowed, her lips thinning into that familiar line of disapproval. "Abigail, we've raised children," she said sharply. "We don't coddle like you do." Her words cut deep, slicing through the fragile confidence I'd built as a mother. I wanted to argue, to tell her Nora wasn't just any child. She was my heart, my responsibility. But I swallowed my retort, feeling 16 again, small and dismissed. Evelyn had always known how to silence me, her judgment a weapon honed over decades. I glanced at Nora, laughing with Clarence on the porch, and let it go. I hugged her tightly, breathing in her shampoo, whispering, "Be good, sweetie. I love you." She squeezed me back, promising to call that night. As I stepped away, Evelyn's words echoed in my mind, a warning I didn't yet understand. I told myself I was overreacting, that Nora would be fine under their care. But that sting of doubt stayed with me, sharp and unrelenting. As I was leaving, Everett showed up out of nowhere, his sports car kicking up gravel in the driveway. He said he needed a break from his failing marriage, his voice casual, as if his presence wasn't a disruption. But it always was. Everett's arrival changed everything. Clarence's stern demeanor softened. Evelyn's critical eye turned to adoration. They fawned over him, their golden boy, while I felt myself shrink, my role in the family reduced to an afterthought. I watched from the car as Nora waved from the porch, her small figure framed by my parents' rigid postures and Everett's smirking confidence. That image burned into my mind, a snapshot of innocence surrounded by something I couldn't quite name. Everett's charm had always overshadowed me, his flaws forgiven while mine were magnified. I knew his presence would shift the weekend's dynamic, pulling focus from Nora to him. I wanted to run back, scoop her up and drive away, but I didn't. I told myself it was just my old insecurities, the scars of a childhood spent in a shadow. Nora's wave grew smaller in my rearview mirror, and I forced a smile, whispering to myself that she'd be okay. But my hands gripped the wheel tighter, betraying the fear I couldn't voice. Driving away from that cabin, I felt a gnawing unease, a weight settling in my chest. I'd never left Nora for more than a day, and now, 3 days stretched ahead, an eternity. Something about Everett's sudden arrival, the way Evelyn dismissed my concerns, it clawed at me, refusing to let go. I replayed our goodbye in my mind. Nora's bright smile, her promise to call, the warmth of her hug. But I also saw Clarence's distracted nod, Evelyn's sharp tone, Everett's careless smirk. They'd always prioritized their image, their expectations, over my feelings. Would they do the same with Nora? I shook my head, trying to silence the doubt. It was just nerves, I told myself. Nora would be fine, she had to be. She was with family, people who loved her, who'd promised to keep her safe. I turned up the radio, forcing my focus to the road, the conference, the future I was building for us. But the unease lingered, a quiet warning I couldn't ignore. I glanced at my phone, half expecting a call from Nora already, her voice telling me she missed me. The screen stayed dark. I whispered a prayer under my breath, asking for her safety, for my fears to be wrong. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right, and that cabin held secrets I wasn't ready to face. Saturday morning, Clarence and Evelyn decided to take Nora on a 7-mile hike to a waterfall deep in the Minnesota woods. At 10 years old, Nora was tough, but that distance was daunting, far too long for her small frame. She hesitated at breakfast, her hazel eyes flickering with doubt as she suggested a shorter trail closer to the cabin. Clarence's voice cut through her words like a blade. "You're old enough for a real hike, Nora," he snapped. "Everett wants to see the falls, and we're not babying you." Evelyn nodded, her lips pursed, dismissing Nora's quiet concern with a wave of her hand. Everett, lounging at the table, barely looked up, his focus on his phone, indifferent to her unease. Nora swallowed her protest, not wanting to disappoint her grandpa, not wanting to seem weak in front of her family. They set out, her small backpack bouncing with each step, her knee already aching from weeks of soccer practice. By noon, they reached the waterfall, its roar echoing through the misty forest. Nora, tired but awed, stepped closer to the edge, her sneakers slipping on a moss-covered rock. Her leg twisted beneath her, a sickening crack splitting the air. She collapsed, clutching her shin, her scream piercing the quiet. "It's broken," she cried, her voice raw with panic. The pain was unbearable, a white-hot agony stealing her breath. She looked to her family, her eyes pleading for help, for comfort, for someone to make it stop. But their faces, Clarence's impatience, Evelyn's irritation, Everett's casual glance, offered no reassurance. In that moment, Nora's world shifted, her trust in them cracking as sharply as her bone, a betrayal beginning to take root in her young heart, a wound that would linger long after the physical pain faded. Everett, the orthopedic surgeon, sauntered over and knelt beside Nora, his expression more annoyed than concerned. She was curled on the ground, tears streaming, her hands gripping her leg as if she could hold the pain at bay. He barely touched her, his examination cursory, before declaring, "It's just a hairline fracture. Not a big deal." His voice was flat, dismissive, as if her agony was an inconvenience to his day. Nora shook her head, sobbing, "It hurts so bad, Uncle Everett, please." But he stood, brushing dirt from his jeans, already done with her. Clarence, towering above, broke a branch from a nearby tree, snapping it into a crude walking stick. "Get up, Nora," he ordered, thrusting it toward her. "We're not carrying you all the way back." Evelyn, arms crossed, chimed in, her tone sharp and cutting. "Stop the dramatics, young lady. You're fine." Nora's pleas were drowned out by their insistence, their refusal to see her pain as real. She begged for her phone, desperate to call me, to hear my voice telling her it would be okay. Evelyn scoffed, "No screens in nature," revealing she'd confiscated it that morning to enforce her rules. With no choice, Nora struggled to her feet, each step a searing torture, the makeshift stick barely keeping her upright. They forced her to walk 3 hours back to the cabin, a grueling trek through uneven trails. Every jolt sent pain shooting through her leg, her cries growing weaker as exhaustion and despair took hold. They urged her on, impatient, reminding her they could miss their evening plans. Nora clung to one thought: I would believe her. I would come for her. But she was alone, betrayed by the family she trusted, her strength tested in ways no child should ever endure. Nora later told me she cried until her tears ran dry, her throat raw from pleading for someone to listen. Every step on that endless trail felt like a betrayal, her family's indifference cutting deeper than the pain in her leg. She kept thinking, Mom would believe me. Mom would stop this. But Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett rushed her along, their voices sharp with irritation. "Hurry up, Nora," Evelyn snapped, reminding her they had a dinner with their old friends, the Hendersons, a social event more important than her suffering. Nora bit her lip, trying to be brave, but her leg was swelling fast, the skin tight and hot beneath her jeans, each movement amplifying her agony. When they finally reached the cabin, she collapsed onto the couch, trembling, her face pale with shock. Evelyn handed her 2 ibuprofen and an ice pack, propping her leg on pillows with a curt, "You'll be fine by morning." Clarence glanced at her, muttering about her overreacting, while Everett scrolled through his phone, completely unbothered. Then, unbelievably, they left her. They dressed for their dinner, Evelyn in her pressed blouse, Clarence in his blazer, chatting about the Hendersons' new boat as if Nora's pain was irrelevant. Nora watched, terrified, as their car pulled away, the taillights fading into the dusk. Alone in the silent cabin, with no phone, no way to reach me, she curled up, clutching the ice pack, her pain overwhelming. She was 10 years old, abandoned by the people meant to protect her, her trust in them shattered. All she could do was wait, praying I'd come, her small heart grappling with a betrayal she couldn't yet name, a wound that would shape her for years to come. In Chicago, I was unraveling, my heart pounding with a fear I couldn't name. I'd been calling and texting Nora all day, my phone a lifeline that refused to connect. No one answered, not Nora, not Clarence, not Evelyn. By Saturday night, I was frantic, my hotel room closing in as I paced, dialing their numbers again and again. I left voicemails, my voice cracking with desperation. Clarence, please call me back. Is Nora okay? I tried Evelyn, then Everett, even their neighbors, anyone who might know something. Nothing. The cabin's landline was down, and cell service in those woods was spotty, but I didn't know that then. All I knew was a mother's instinct screaming that something was wrong. My daughter wasn't answering, and the silence was deafening. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her photo on my phone, her bright smile, her ponytail swinging at a soccer game. I'd promised to always keep her safe, but I'd left her with them, with people who'd never valued me. Guilt clawed at me. Had I failed her by trusting them? I tried to focus on the conference, the presentation I was supposed to give, but it felt trivial, hollow against the terror consuming me. Nora was my world, and every unanswered call tightened the vice around my heart. I didn't sleep that night, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios, each one worse than the last. Something felt horribly wrong, a certainty I couldn't shake, driving me to pack my bag and prepare to leave at dawn, desperate to reach my daughter before it was too late. Sunday morning, I couldn't bear the silence any longer. My calls to Nora, Clarence, and Evelyn had gone unanswered, each unanswered ring tightening the knot of dread in my chest. I left Chicago at 9 a.m., my hands trembling on the steering wheel, the 3-hour drive to the Minnesota cabin stretching like an eternity. My mind raced with every possible scenario. Nora sick, lost, hurt, each thought worse than the last. I gripped the wheel, whispering her name like a prayer, willing her to be safe. Guilt gnawed at me. I'd trusted them despite their history of dismissing me. When I pulled into the cabin's gravel driveway, the scene inside stopped me cold. Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett sat around the dining table, playing Scrabble, coffee mugs and a plate of pastries between them, laughter drifting through the open window. It was just another Sunday to them, carefree and ordinary, while my world was unraveling. They looked up, startled, as I burst through the door. "Abigail, we didn't expect you till tonight," Evelyn said, her tone faintly annoyed, as if I'd interrupted their game. My voice shook with barely contained panic. "Where's Nora?" I demanded, my eyes darting around the room, searching for any sign of her. Everett leaned back in his chair, shrugging with that infuriating nonchalance. "She's fine," he said, his voice dripping with dismissal. "Just resting after a little tumble on the hike yesterday." A tumble? The word landed like a slap, too casual, too wrong for the fear consuming me. Clarence nodded, sipping his coffee, while Evelyn rearranged her Scrabble tiles, avoiding my gaze. Their calmness fueled my terror, a sickening certainty that something was terribly wrong. I didn't wait for more excuses. I turned and ran toward the guest room, my heart pounding, Nora's name echoing in my mind, the weight of their indifference already crushing me. I pushed open the guest room door, and the sight of Nora broke me. She lay in bed, her small body curled under a thin blanket, her face pale as ash, her hazel eyes dull with pain. Her leg, exposed above the covers, was swollen twice its normal size, bruised a deep, angry purple that made my stomach lurch. She looked so fragile, so unlike the vibrant girl I'd left 2 days ago. When she saw me, her voice was a faint whisper, trembling with relief. "Mom, you came?" Those 3 words shattered my heart, carrying both love and accusation. I rushed to her side, gathering her in my arms, careful not to jostle her leg. "I'm here, baby," I choked out, horrified by her condition. Her skin was clammy, her breathing shallow, and I knew we had no time to waste. I scooped her up, ignoring the pain in my own chest, and carried her to the car, her head resting against my shoulder. The drive to the ER, 20 minutes away, felt endless, every red light a torment. I kept talking to Nora, promising her it would be okay, my voice steady for her sake. At the hospital, X-rays revealed the truth: a displaced tibial fracture. Her bone snapped and shifted out of place. The doctor's voice was grim as he explained that walking on it for hours had caused severe soft tissue damage, necessitating emergency surgery to insert a rod and screws. I stood by Nora's bedside, holding her hand as nurses prepped her, my mind reeling. My daughter was in agony because the people I trusted had failed her. Clarence, Evelyn, Everett, they'd seen her pain and dismissed it, left her to suffer alone. As Nora was wheeled away, I vowed to protect her, no matter what it cost me, the weight of their betrayal fueling my resolve. Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett followed me to the hospital, their presence an unwelcome shadow in the sterile waiting room. They acted as if I was blowing things out of proportion, their faces a mix of irritation and defensiveness. Clarence leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his voice gruff. "These doctors are just covering themselves, Abigail. It's not as bad as they say." Evelyn sat primly, her purse clutched tightly, chiming in with a dismissive, "We didn't know it was serious." She was walking after all. I stared at them, disbelief warring with fury, their excuses hollow against Nora's pain. But it was Everett's words that pushed me over the edge. He sprawled in a chair, scrolling through his phone, and muttered, "Kids are resilient. She'll bounce back." Resilient? The arrogance, the callousness, ignited a rage I'd never known. My daughter was in surgery, her leg mangled because they prioritized a dinner party over her pain. I stood, shaking, my voice low but searing. "You made her walk 3 hours on a broken leg," I said, each word a blade. "You left her alone in that cabin, terrified, with no way to reach me. You failed her." Their faces hardened, Clarence's jaw clenched, Evelyn's eyes narrowed, Everett's smirk faltered, but I didn't stop. "Get out," I told them, pointing to the door. "You don't belong here." For the first time, I saw them flinch, their composure cracking under the weight of my words. They'd dismissed me my whole life, but this wasn't about me anymore. It was about Nora, my daughter, who deserved better than their neglect. As they gathered their things, muttering excuses, I turned away, my focus on the operating room, on the promise I'd made to keep her safe. They didn't leave quietly. Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett lingered in the waiting room, their voices rising in defense, as if their excuses could erase what they'd done. The landline was down. Evelyn insisted, her tone sharp, as if a faulty phone justified abandoning Nora. "We had plans with the Hendersons," Clarence added, his voice heavy with indignation. "We couldn't just cancel." I stared, incredulous, their words hollow against the reality of Nora's suffering. Then Clarence had the audacity to say, "If you'd let me examine her properly, Abigail, this wouldn't have happened." The blame, the arrogance, was staggering. For a moment, I was 16 again, shrinking under their judgment, but I pushed that girl aside. I didn't back down. "You saw her pain and ignored it," I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning inside. "You chose your pride over my daughter's safety." For the first time, I saw them clearly, not as parents or family, but as people who'd rather save face than save Nora. Their values, appearances, status, control, had endangered the one person I'd sworn to protect. As they sputtered, deflecting, I turned my back, done with their excuses. Nora was in surgery, fighting because of their neglect, and I had no room for their lies. I sat by the hors d'oeuvres, clutching her stuffed bunny from the car, whispering promises to her. I'd protect her, no matter the cost, even if it meant cutting them out forever. In that moment, I shed the weight of their approval, their love, their judgment. They'd show me who they were, and I believed them. My focus was Nora, my strength drawn from her courage, my resolve unbreakable. Nora's surgery was a grueling ordeal, a battle for her small body. The doctors inserted a titanium rod and screws to stabilize her fractured tibia, a stark reminder of the damage caused by those 3 agonizing hours she was forced to walk. For 6 weeks, she couldn't bear weight on her leg, confined to a wheelchair or bed, her usual spark dimmed by pain and exhaustion. At night, nightmares haunted her, vivid dreams of being left alone in the woods, her cries unheard, her family's faces cold and distant. My heart ached watching her jolt awake, tears streaming, clinging to me for comfort. Yet, even in her pain, Nora's strength shone through. She'd crack jokes about her bionic leg, her laughter of fragile but fierce defiance against what she'd endured. Her resilience humbled me, a light in our darkest days. Our community rallied around us, wrapping us in love when my family had failed. Friends dropped off casseroles, steaming dishes of lasagna and chicken pot pie, filling our fridge and our hearts. My colleague at school, Sarah, covered my classes without hesitation, giving me time to stay by Nora's side. My ex-husband, Theo, distant for years, stepped up in ways I hadn't expected, sending groceries weekly, boxes of fresh produce, snacks Nora loved, and even her favorite cereal. Their kindness reminded me we weren't alone, that chosen family could mend what blood had broken. Each meal, each gesture, stitched us back together, giving Nora and me the strength to face the long road of recovery. I held Nora's hand through every physical therapy session, marveling at her courage, knowing her healing was just beginning, a journey we'd walk together, step by painful step. My Aunt Beatrice, Clarence's estranged sister, became our rock, a beacon of warmth in a storm I hadn't seen coming. She'd cut ties with my parents years ago, unable to stomach their toxicity, and now she drove from St. Paul every other weekend, her car loaded with board games and Nora's favorite cookies. Over coffee, Beatrice shared stories of our family's patterns, how Clarence was raised to dismiss pain as weakness, a lesson carved into him by his own cold father. Evelyn, she said, learned young to prioritize appearances, her mother's voice echoing in every sharp critique she gave. These weren't excuses, Beatrice insisted, but truths that helped me understand the roots of their neglect. Her words gave me clarity, a map to the dysfunction I'd lived in for so long. I knew I had to act, to protect Nora from their harm. I sat at our kitchen table, pen trembling, and wrote certified letters to Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett. Each word was deliberate, heavy with the weight of Nora's pain. I laid out her injuries, the displaced fracture, the soft tissue damage, the surgery, and the betrayal that caused them. Your actions caused her harm, I wrote. We're done. I mailed them, my heart pounding, a final line drawn in the sand. Their responses came weeks later, pages of excuses, no trace of remorse. Clarence claimed he'd have fixed it if I'd trusted him. Evelyn called Nora's pain exaggerated. Everett didn't bother to reply. Their words confirmed what I'd feared. They'd never change. Beatrice held my hand as I read them, her presence a reminder that family could be different, that Nora and I deserved better. Cutting contact wasn't revenge. It was survival, a promise to shield my daughter from their poison, a step toward a future free from their shadow. Nora's first steps with crutches were tentative, her face etched with determination as she wobbled across our living room. Each shaky movement was a victory, a testament to her unyielding spirit. I cheered her on, my heart swelling with pride, knowing every step was a defiance of the pain she'd endured. To rebuild our joy, we created new traditions, carving out moments of lightness in our healing. Sunday pancake brunches became sacred, Nora giggling as we piled on silly toppings, whipped cream, sprinkles, even gummy worms. Friday movie nights meant takeout pizza and blankets on the couch, her laughter filling the apartment as we watched her favorite comedies. These rituals were our rebellion against the past, proof we could find happiness without them. Theo, who'd been distant since our divorce, surprised me by flying in from Denver. He spent a weekend building a ramp for our apartment stairs, his hands steady as he worked, his presence a quiet apology for years of absence. Nora beamed at him, calling it her superhero ramp, and I saw a flicker of the father he could be. I took a step toward healing, too, joining a support group for adults estranged from toxic families. Hearing other stories of parents who valued image over love, siblings who dismissed pain, shattered my isolation. I wasn't alone. Cutting ties wasn't about punishing Clarence, Evelyn, or Everett. It was about protecting Nora, giving her a life free from their judgment. The group became my anchor, a place to grieve the family I'd lost and embrace the one we were building. Nora's courage, Theo's effort, and the group's wisdom showed me we could heal, not by erasing the past, but by choosing who we'd become. Nora's physical scar faded over months, a faint line on her shin where the surgeons had worked their magic. But the emotional wounds ran deeper, harder to heal, etched into her heart by the betrayal of those she trusted. She'd wake from nightmares, her voice small, asking if she'd done something wrong to make them leave her. I'd hold her tightly, whispering that she was perfect, that their failure was theirs alone, not hers. Her therapist, a kind woman with a gentle voice, helped her process the betrayal, guiding her through the pain of being dismissed by her grandparents and uncle. Nora's words one evening stopped me cold. Sitting at our dinner table, her eyes serious, she said, "Mom, I don't want to be like them, ignoring people's pain." Her strength, her clarity at just 10 years old, broke my heart and rebuilt it stronger. She saw, with a wisdom beyond her years, what I'd taken decades to learn. Compassion was a choice, one her family had failed to make. Her resolve became my guide, a reminder of why I'd walked away from Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett. Nora's healing wasn't just about her leg. It was about reclaiming her trust, her joy, her sense of worth. Each day, she grew brighter, her laughter louder, her spirit unbroken. I watched her, awed, knowing her scars, seen and unseen, were proof of her survival, her courage, her heart. She was my teacher, showing me that healing wasn't about forgetting the pain, but about choosing love over it every single day. Her strength gave me the courage to let go of the family I'd lost and embrace the one we were building together. Nora taught me what true strength looks like, her courage a beacon through our darkest days. One night, as we sat on her bed, she looked at me with those wise hazel eyes and said, "Mom, I learned I don't want to be someone who makes others feel small." Her words, so clear at just 10 years old, shifted something deep within me. I stopped waiting for empty apologies from Clarence, Evelyn, or Everett, words that would never come. Their betrayal showed me who they were, and I chose to believe them. We built a new family, one woven from love, not obligation. Aunt Beatrice, with her warm hugs and endless stories, became our anchor. Our friends, who filled our home with casseroles and laughter, showed us what care looks like. Even Theo, my ex-husband, stepped up, becoming the dad Nora needed, his quiet presence a steady support. Maya Angelou's words echoed in my heart. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I finally did, letting go of the family I'd lost to embrace the one we'd found, a tapestry of chosen bonds stronger than blood. 6 months after her surgery, Nora was back on the soccer field, her ponytail bouncing as she chased the ball, her scar barely visible beneath her shin guard. Watching her, I felt a swell of pride. Her joy was our triumph over pain. Our apartment, once heavy with worry, now buzzed with laughter, not the sharp sting of criticism I'd grown up with. Sunday pancake brunches and Friday movie nights filled our days with lightness, a stark contrast to the cold cabin where Nora's pain was dismissed. I no longer carry guilt for cutting ties with Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett. Their absence left space for something better, people who see us, who show up without judgment. Family isn't blood. It's the ones who stay through the storms, who celebrate your worth without conditions. Nora's return to the field wasn't just about healing her leg. It was about reclaiming her spirit, our home a sanctuary of love. We'd shed the weight of their toxicity, stepping into a life built on trust, laughter, and the strength we found in each other. Nora's scar, a faint line on her shin, is a quiet reminder of what we survived. The pain, the betrayal, the long nights of fear. But our healing shines brighter, her radiant smile, our new traditions, the warmth of our chosen family. Those are the marks of who we've become, proof that we didn't just endure but thrived. Walking away from toxic people isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. It's choosing your peace, your child's joy, over the chains of obligation. Nora taught me that, her courage a mirror for my own. We don't look back with anger anymore. We look forward with hope. Our story isn't defined by Clarence, Evelyn, or Everett's failure. It's defined by our resilience, by the love we built from the ashes of their neglect. Nora's laughter, her fierce heart, reminds me every day that we're enough. We've carved a new path, one where pain doesn't win, where love does, every single time. Nora's scar, a faint line etched on her shin, is a quiet testament to the pain we endured, a reminder of the betrayal that tested our spirits. But our healing, her radiant smile, our laughter-filled home, the love we've built, shines far brighter, proof of our unyielding strength. Sometimes, the bravest choice isn't staying to mend what's broken, but walking away from those who hurt you, who dim your light with their neglect. For Nora and me, cutting ties with Clarence, Evelyn, and Everett wasn't an end. It was the dawn of a new life, one surrounded by love, not judgment. We found our worth in the people who see us, who lift us up, and in the courage to choose ourselves, to build a future where pain doesn't define us. Have you ever had to set boundaries to protect someone you love, to shield them from harm or reclaim your own peace? Maybe you walked away from toxicity, choosing healing over hurt. Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your words inspire others to find their courage. If this story of Nora's resilience and our journey moved you, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video to support others finding their strength. Your voice matters, and together, we can build a community of courage where no one feels alone in their fight to heal and thrive. Let's lift each other up, showing the world that love and resilience can triumph over pain. Next week, I'll share how Nora and I created new traditions to replace the family we lost, building a life filled with joy and unbreakable connection. Don't miss it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to hear our next chapter. Thank you for listening to our story, for standing with us in our healing. Remember, your worth isn't defined by those who failed to see it, but by the love you choose to embrace every day, the courage you find to keep going.